Hello, I just wanted to talk a little bit about picking. Basically, a lot of students, they come in and they've picked like this. Basically, I want to show you two different other ways to hold a pick that give you more control, more dynamics, a meatier tone, and overall more control. You won't be dropping it as much and this kind of thing. So, basically, it's kind of like if you're doing a chin-up. And not a straight chin-up. Basically, you're grabbing it here, but you can drop your fingers. Maybe more like a give me some money kind of pose, but or kind of hand shape. Basically, when you do grip it here, keep it on an angle. Don't put it on top of your nail or anything, but just so you can move it like this. Okay? You can pivot it. Your thumb. I personally like my thumb around there. If you got really big thumbs, it might hang over, that's okay. Just as long as you can move it, you can slide it back. If you're picking and the pick starts to do this or moves this way, well then you're not going to be able to do much. So you want to be able to do this using your fingers and pull it back where you need it. That's basically the motion too. A lot of people have trouble with that. Beginning students, if it's moving, you can move it back like this. You want to do that really fast if you're in the middle of a song. Also, that lends its way to another point that I want to make, that if you were to do tapping, finger tapping that is, then that's where the slide is, and you pull it here, and there you are. And of course, when I just moved it back, it was not in the right position, so then of course I would do this and bring it back there. Now, holding the pick in this way is great for palm muting and overall playing. I mean, you're automatically at this angle here, so if you move your hand back to where the strings connect at the bridge, you're going to be able to palm mute just fine. Like kind of pretty easy stuff, but basically it's going to give you a little more dynamics as opposed to this. Now it does sound a little brighter when you do that, but we're going to show you a different technique that's even better, has more percussiveness, brighter, and kind of get that sound with still having a little more thickness of tone. Now this method here, as with any picking method, you want to be able to grab it fairly tight. I mean, if I could grab this tip, I could pull it out, but it wouldn't be that easy. But at the same time, I don't get a death grip on it, and I still have to keep this relaxed if I'm going to pick fast at all or do any kind of other work. Now, at this motion, if I lift my finger up, then it lends its way to doing any kind of hybrid picking. Whoops. Okay, so just lifting the finger up and being able to. Now, another thing that I want to show you, there's a lot of my favorite guitar player, favorite guitar players, Eddie Van Halen, Jimi Hendrix, and Paul Gilbert and Malmsteen. But particularly Eddie Van Halen and Jimi Hendrix, I could see a lot of times their wrists almost seem to be a little bit open, sometimes not even touching the strings, and still playing fast and still being who they are and playing as well as they do. And I thought, well, how do you do that? And then I read interviews. Eddie Van Halen in particular was holding his pick with his middle finger and his thumb, and I tried that, and I was like, well, when I did try that, I was picking like this when I was a beginner, and I thought, well, that doesn't work. But then I revisited it sometime later. Still didn't have any luck with it, and then I tried doing his famous tremolo picking where you're actually above the strings, and didn't have much luck with that either. And I think it was one time I had a show, and during a show it was outdoors and I was sweating a lot, and I just grabbed it like this because it was ready to fall. And I've grabbed the pick and tried that before too, and it didn't really feel natural, but this time it felt better, and I thought the tone was better, and I played just the same. So basically what I did was I had my thumb here, kind of on a diagonal, and my middle finger at a diagonal, even a sharper diagonal, if you can see this. So the angle is a little steeper, and then I put my finger on top, but not completely on top, on the side, kind of for reinforcement, almost like I could bend the pick there. And that's kind of how I had it. And sometimes I put my thumb into it, and sometimes I laid it flat. You know, you got to play with that and find out what's good for you and how your hand is sitting. And if you're muting this way, you can't mute like this, otherwise you'd be like this. So you're going to be on the side. Okay, so it's going to be a little bit on the side, a little bit different, but you should experience more of an open sound, more dynamics, more percussiveness, and general volume, and more sustain from the notes. But if you do get tired, or you're just not used to it, or you're starting to learn it, then you can always go back to this one. And if this is even giving you trouble, then you can always go back to this and build up until you feel natural at it. Just to give you an example of the difference in tone between this, which still has good tone, a lot of people use that. I think Petrucci holds his pick like that, and he's always holding his pick like that. And versus this method, which is kind of more of an Eddie Van Halen tone, I think, or it has more of that open sound. I've heard from people that have sat with him or know him, they said unplugged, the guitar just sounds different. He's got this different attack on his picking. I don't know if this is it exactly, but it certainly sounds different than anything that I worked on before. So anyways, we'll play with this method here. Oh, by the way, I should show you this method here. The pick, I'm grabbing, it's a little more fleshy from behind. It's not just like this on the side where I'm holding. It's actually kind of curled a little bit. So you can see I got a little bit more behind there where it's not going to fall out. Okay. So that's that method, and then this method here, where I got more of the middle finger behind and being able to hold it. And the funny thing too is that even when you're kind of flat, it is on an angle. I don't know if you can see that, but when you actually, here's the funny thing, when you actually start to apply pressure, it flattens out a little bit, and you get this extra weird kind of snappy sound to it. And I don't know if a lot of people know that, but I think it's cool, worth mentioning. It's a cool technique to know. So, here's how it sounds. So I think you can hear it's a little open, sounds a little different. It's a little louder because you're using more of the flexors in your forearm. You get this really, you get a lot more power, and you can still go fast. Now when you're going faster, I think what I'm doing is I generally choke up a little bit. I round out my fingers a little bit more so I can get flush, and I can still play as fast as if I was playing like this, which is your typical shredder way. So just a different way to learn how to pick, and some different tonal options. Check it out, see what's right for you, and maybe they're both right for you. When I met Joe Satriani, I was lucky enough to meet him, and I was still having problems with, sometimes I get wrist pains and stuff, and I think a lot of times I was anchoring my wrist, and I asked him, you know, how he learned, or how he picks, and he says he picks a bunch of different ways. He said that basically he studied everybody that he admired or looked up to, or just people that he found interesting or liked what they were doing, and just tried to learn how everybody was picking. And so different situations, or if he's working through some pains or whatever the case is, or he's just tired, muscle cramping, or he wants a different sound for a different kind of thing, then he uses all kinds of different regular pick techniques. We're just talking about flat pick, not about hybrid picking or anything. So I found that pretty interesting. So then I started to look a little deeper and figure out what I was doing. And when I saw Paul Gilbert's videos, actually on YouTube, and how much, after all these years, and guy's like a friggin' alternate picking genius, him and Yngwie Malmsteen, and how much he still gets back to the basics, and he really is pretty introspective in how he thinks, okay, how did that sound, or what's the tone there, or a new way to do a bend and stuff. And that kind of inspired me to get a little clear about what I was doing, so I could be able to explain it here, and hopefully it'll help you. And if it does, great. And thank you for watching. Bye bye.